Welcome back to the channel. I'm Crypto Trend Trader, and today we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please trade at your own risk and don't risk more than you're willing to lose. Alright, so here we have the Bitcoin chart on the 4-hour, and this is a Bitstamp. And all we're going to do is just basically go through here and get our basic resistance and support zones. So I'm going to look at sort of like the Wyckoffean way of putting in resistance and support. So when we came up here initially, uh, we topped out, and that is our preliminary supply zone, and then we get a little bit of a pullback, and then we get our parabolic move up, and then from the parabolic move, where we top out here is going to be our buying climax, and the buying climax is going to represent the first resistance, and the preliminary supply is going to represent the first support zone. And so now we form 1 and 1, and then we're going to come down here. We're going to get basically a exaggerated sell-off, and then where we bottom right here, we're going to get a second support line form, and that is going to create basically what we're going to refer to as our support zone. Alright, and then when we come back up, we're going to get that automatic response or reaction rally essentially that's going to bring us up, but we don't actually make it up as high as our initial. So when we put in that line, that resistance is going to become another line, and that is going to be our resistance zone. So now we essentially have our support zone, we have our resistance zone right up here. And all those represent is an area that is going to, you're going to expect a strong sell-off when you hit that support zone, or the, I'm sorry, this was supposed to be resistance. Jeez. Alright, so that is our resistance zone, and then we have the support zone. And all that represents is just an area where we can expect to find support every time we come down to it, and an area we would expect a sell-off or resistance every time we come up to it. So now we have the preliminary supply, we have the buying climax, preliminary supply, buying climax, we have our response automatic rally, we come back down, we put in a lower low than our first rally that we put in, the first bottoming, and what that does is we actually find support on our preliminary supply zone, and then that's a sign of weakness because it essentially went lower than our initial support. So when it comes down, that shows the market the sign of weakness. We come back up, we come back down, double test it, that gives the market confidence. So then off that we're going to get another rally up, and again this is going to show weakness again because essentially we fail to even make it up to the resistance zone. So now that we've done that, we're just going to put one right here too, because in the future that's going to be a tough resistance for us to get through, but it's not going to be as strong as the other resistances. And then again, when we came down here and we put in like this little double top deal and faked a lot of people out because they thought prices were going higher. And now we're going to switch gears here a little bit, and we're going to just put a diagonal trend line and just kind of represent what everybody's been looking at throughout this whole time. So what happened is initially you draw the line right here, and then whenever we come back up to that line, if we break through it, you're expecting that we get a break with follow through to the upside because we broke through that. But you'll see this was a huge fake out because we put in that strong resistance, came down, we came up, tested it, and then we broke through it, and that was a spring. That was a big fake out to the market, get everyone to buy in, hit people's stop losses if they're short, and then immediately sell back off, and we never are able to get back up to that same zone again. As a matter of fact, when we come down here and we do find support off that, we get that BART back up, that move, big move back up, but then we can't even get above the micro peak, let alone one of the macro peaks. So essentially that shows the market that's like in a lot of ways that's a final test up, and then when that fails, that tells people, okay, there's a high likelihood that we are in fact in this descending triangle being supported with a buy wall. So every time price goes down low, it hits this buy wall, but the buy wall is going to get smaller and smaller every time as it gets slowly bought through, and then eventually what's likely to happen is we'll basically bust through the buy wall and fall down to at least, this is our next, for us this is the next key level. this should be strong support, very strong support, because we consolidated at that support on the way up, and then we came down to the top of it and couldn't even break down on the way down. So it's likely that if we lose our support zone here, that what's going to happen is we're going to fall down to the 7,500 range, and then that's where we're going to find support. Now, if this is in fact, that's if it's distribution. If it's in fact accumulation though, what we can expect to happen is probably a breakdown here and then a fake out, a break through this zone, a new low over this whole trend that we've done, signaling to the market, okay, we've fallen to lower prices, that's it, we're going down. And then in response we get a massive move up here, and what we would expect to do is at least take out this zone right here at 11,000, and as soon as we take that out, we'll likely consolidate and then shoot up to the next zone here at the 12.3 range. And at that point in time, once we've essentially taken out this right here, when we retest this high here, I think when we break through that, that will signal to the market that these two are nothing, that we're just going to break through them as well. But again, at this point in time, it's very difficult to tell the actual direction. A lot of the indicators and a lot of technical analysis right now points up, and a lot of the indicators and technical analysis right now points down. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a couple of the indicators now that we have the basic zones laid out and everything. So we have here, I'll show you in case you want to use any of these. They're all available for free on TradingView. We have the TJD Stochastic Slope, which is essentially using the stochastics, and it changes color as the stochastics cross over. So it'll be blue when they're in an uptrend, it'll be red when they're in a downtrend. And then we have the TJD TD MACD, which is essentially the moving average convergence divergence. And again, it'll be green on the histogram when we're moving upward, but if the histogram is below the zero line, it means we're essentially in bearish territory, and if it's above the zero line, it means we're in the bullish territory. But what we're looking to do is basically trade the blue slope up here. And again, this is not financial advice, I'm just telling you like the key zone you're looking for, or I'm looking for when I see this. And then last we have the TJD OBV, and that's our on balance volume. And again, what that's doing here is it's going to show you with the blue and purple, is there more people buying or more people selling? If there's more people buying, it's blue. If there's more people selling, it's purple. And then overall, it's going to give you, again, basically a moving average of the slope. And as the slope is in an uptrend, there's more people buying consistently. Therefore, price is likely to head upwards with conviction and continuation, and that's going to be green. And then if there's more people selling overall, you're going to see this crosses down below it. We'll get a negative slope. It'll turn red, and that means that there's more people selling. So on the 4 hour here, just looking at these, we're saying we crossed over red, we're dumping down, we're likely to get continuation. We've crossed everything over red here, we're dumping down, the histogram is below the zero line, we're likely to get bearish continuation. And then you'll see here on balance volume, it's difficult to tell right now. This one is a little bit more laggy than the rest of them, but you can see we had the sell-off through here, we had the push up, and then what's likely to happen now is we're going to get this cross back down below here and turn red again. And then let's just switch over to the daily, and we'll take a look as well and see what we're looking at. And again, we're in a strong downtrend on the stochastics to the negative side. We're in the neutral zone right now, but it looks like we'll likely see continuation. If you see let's zoom in on this one, TJD, TD, MACD, we did cross the red histogram below the zero line in bearish territory and below the blue slope line. So what's likely to happen next is we'll get downward slope on this, it will turn red, and then we'll see continuation like this area here to the downside. And then last we had the on balance volume, and you'll see it has been in a very strong slope all the way up since January, and now you'll see we're starting to consolidate. We did have a very strong uptrend with uptrending consolidation, and now you'll see we are basically starting to roll over. We're losing that uptrend, and I suspect that once this does in fact roll over, we'll see a situation like this where we start to get our dump off here. We can go back and basically see what happens is the volume won't necessarily go negative as like way down, but it will turn red, and then we'll see that the capitulation consolidation if we can't save this. Alright, and then let's switch over to the weekly as well. I'd like to take a look at that one, and as you'll see here on the weekly, we have been getting the accumulation and buy all through the bottom here. We've gotten the distribution and sell signals all through the top here, and we are in fact in a downward slope. And you'll see we do have the yellow line and the white line. We have the RSI and the moving average of RSI as well, so you can just kind of basically get a rough idea where they are in relation to the stochastics as well. And you'll see they're both trending downward right now on the weekly scale, and the trend on the stochastics, it's not necessarily strengthening, but it's also not weakening. So again, we'll likely see continuation on the weekly scale. And then the TJD, TD, MACD, you'll see we are in a downtrend, but we do still have the positive blue slope. So it's possible that if we start trending upward, as long as this histogram is above the blue line, we can in fact save this trend and continue to move. So that's more on the bullish side. And then you'll see here on the weekly, we are actually below on the on-balance volume now, below the green line. So what that's going to do is it's slowly going to kill the slope, and we'll start seeing it level out and then potentially turn red and move to the downside. Although we can test down in this area and then bounce back up and find support essentially. So it's not all over yet. And then finally, I just want to switch over to the monthly and get the longer term view. Monthly looks much more bullish. This is definitely the best time period to look at if you're on the bullish side. You'll see it's very similar to the signature that we got down here in 2015 before the massive bull run. We got the sell all through here, distribution, and then finally we left the control zone, came down here. Again, we got the buy, accumulation, and then buy signal all through here. And again, we do have the positive slope on the TJD, TD MACD, or I'm sorry, the Stokes slope. We have the green above the blue and positive slope on the TJD, TD, MACD, and then finally, again, we're looking a little more bearish on this one. We did in fact lose the positive slope on balance volume, and we're starting to get the negative slope here in red, and it's going to be moving to the downside as long as the blue and purple line is below it. So essentially, if we can't find some kind of support here, we're probably, this signature looks the most like the signature here when we topped out. You'll see we were above it in a strong trending move. We dropped down below it. We lost the green slope and came down here and started getting the red slope and stayed below it. And then that was all through the accumulation zone, all through here when we were looking to buy at the bottom. And we moved up, we got the exact same signature. We lost the slope on the monthly scale. We're likely to see continuation with the purple and blue here on this one. So this one's disagreeing on every time frame. Whether every other indicator is bullish, this one's bearish, and when every other indicator is bearish, this one's bullish. But again, we do have to be careful with the on-balance volume, because as more exchanges hold more coin, people can trade it around. So there can be a bunch of trading taking place, but that's not necessarily reflected in the on-balance volume, because those aren't actually transactions on the blockchain, as it's all taking place within the exchange. So again, you do have to be very subjective with some of these indicators and make sure that you're taking into account all the factors, especially over time as things change in a new space like this. But again, that one is leading more to the bearish side and giving us more of a look that we are in fact going to be consolidating down through here and getting another sell-off. But again, that's on the monthly scale. A lot can change before then. We could easily get a big push up. That's all it's going to take is one big candle like this on the monthly scale, and it's going to turn everything right back around. So there we have it, looking at some of the longer time frames, kind of get an idea of what we're expecting. We obviously went through and drew out some resistance and support lines, kind of see what everyone is looking at in sort of the white coffee sense. What I'm hoping happens right here is we do get the sell-off, we get the spring, we break out here, and then we can jump over the creek, as they like to refer to it. This basically being the creek, a series of lower highs and then lower lows, followed by a breakout above them. Strong push to the upside, and then we can retest some of this resistance and potentially break through it. I think if we do break out of this triangle right here, that it's very likely we're going to get that continuation to the upside that we've been looking for. But again, you'll see people have been drawing this little dilly right here or whatever, trying to give this, but you really can't do it like that, guys. When you draw a triangle, you need to use either the bottom point if you're going down or the top point if you're going up. So when you draw this point here, you need to go from the topmost point here, and then you go after that from left to right. You're looking for your next points for resistance or support.